If I might, hi, good. Nice to see you. How you been?
Thank you. Have a good week.
And you too.
Okay.
You still wearing the boots?
These are my new boots.
I
I
see.
wore out the soles.
But didn't you have one for you? Did you have an injured foot or something?
Oh, my knee.
Yeah, knee.
Yep, I'm
That's
good.
all good.
Yeah. Good.
As advertised, this is a congregational meeting, and the purpose is as follows. I suspect everyone in this room has heard of a proposal that has been made to the church. That proposal is a financial one. It's a business proposal. It is that an individual member of the church who wishes to remain anonymous has made an offer to lend to the church the amount of money required to install solar panels on some of the roofs of the church. The offer has been evaluated, analyzed, and considered by the Board of Trustees and the Leadership Board. And those two boards have reached a decision. But the Leadership Board and the Board of Trustees do not operate in a vacuum. We are in reality an extension of the congregation generally. In other words, we're all in this together, if you will. And so the purpose of this meeting today is to summarize the solar panels project, to tell you what the Leadership Board and Board of Trustees, what conclusions it has reached, and then explain to you the basis for those conclusions and decisions, and then provide you the opportunity to ask questions and get answers to those questions. I would ask you to hold your questions until the end when we get to that part of the program. First, Sean Getz, the chairman of the Leadership Board, will summarize the details of the project, and then I will explain the Leadership Board and the Board of Trustees' decision, and we'll go from there. So, Sean, it's all yours. Let me get out of your way.
No, that's all right. That's right. Thank you, everyone, I think everyone knows me, Sean Getz. So this project has been really kind of a fundamental part of a stewardship campaign. And I would like first thank, where'd Leslie go? I would like to thank Leslie for kind of spearheading a lot of this, finding us a lender, finding us installer, really being a driving force behind this and allowing us to sort of align many, many things that have to come together to make this work. And I'd really like to thank Ford for all this hard work and dedication, reviewing contracts, reviewing the lending agreements, asking a lot of questions. And we're like, oh yeah, we should probably think about that. So Ford has always been like days ahead of me. I feel bad because I'll read something and I'll look and be like, oh yeah, Ford's already done that. Okay, now I got to catch up. So really would appreciate all the hard work that Leslie and Ford have done for this project. So why solar? There's a few things. I'm sure Leslie can talk about the green aspects of it and the stewardship of our environment. I think in one sense we can just say that's just a good thing to do, a good stewardship of our environment. I'm a numbers guy, so that doesn't sell as much to me. I'm like, yeah, okay, but But there is that aspect. I do not want us to gloss over that aspect, that this is a good stewardship effort for our environment. Primarily for me, it's the numbers game. Our energy costs have been going up, as you will see here in a moment. We spent last year around almost $17,000 just in electrical usage charges. That doesn't count the little, the taxes and the little fees that they tack on. But that's just our usage charges for the last year is almost $17,000. And anyone who's been tracking energy costs in Maryland know that they have been increasing above the national average for the past several years. We recently had a slight bill change through Annapolis to lower those costs, but as you all know, that is like a drop in the bucket of the actual costs. And I'm not trying to be political here, but we all know that that was something done because there's an election coming up, and when the election is over, things will probably go back to where they were. The energy costs will keep climbing here in Maryland. And I hate to say, if you've been following the news, they're also talking about putting a data center over in Calvert and a data center over in Charles County. So as you can imagine, our costs are more likely going to go up. So we're looking at, in about 5 years, even if we follow the national average, we're still looking at about $20,000, $22,000 a year just in usage charges every year in the next 5 years. And there's a chance that it can grow even more than that. So imagine what we could do if we didn't have to pay that $17,000 to $20,000, if we weren't, chained to that cost every year. Those funds could be used for something else. Additionally, we're at a time now where we kind of need to make the decision. I say it's now or never. Part of that reason is there's a program through the federal government that will pay 30% of the cost for installation. And that program expires, and we need to make the decision. If we are going to make the decision, we need to make it now. We will not get that 30%. That is a significant portion of the costs. And finally, we have a lender willing to give us a no-interest loan with amazing terms. Not only no-interest loan, we don't even have to start paying the loan back until the system is up and operating. We will never get that from any bank. We will never get that from most private lenders. And I really want you to sink in, because the person who is lending us these funds is losing money. I mean, think about how it's a significant chunk of change to lend us over many years that they are not making money off of. They are not earning interest on that. So I really want folks to understand that that is a significant contribution. All those things have kind of come together to allow us to make this decision, to move forward. I will talk about, does it have the company, Energy Select. Cage Murdoch is here. He is our Energy Select representative. As you can see, it's a small, locally owned business. They've done many commercial and residential installations for solar. So I think we feel like we're in good hands with that company. They are fully insured, and they are certified to do the work. Next slide. So the cost, sorry, I can't see it from this angle. So the costs, as you can see, this is not a cheap system to install. It's a pretty significant system to size to our needs. Now designed to cover, $17,000 to $20,000 of energy use every year. It has to be a pretty sizable system. I believe it includes, you'll see the layout on the one slide of where we're putting them, but I believe, it's 120 panels? 160, oh wow, okay, yeah. So it is not a small number of panels that we're to generate the amount of energy that are required. It is a sizable system. It is also therefore a costly system. What I want to focus on is that number, that 133.9, the roughly 134,000. That is the amount that we would, quote, finance through the lender. Again, no interest financing. I'll talk about how we're going to pay this here in just a moment, but I want you to understand that is about the cost. That is the cost that we are looking to finance, is that $134,000-ish amount. As you can see, the project timeline, we start early October, and it can take up to 1 year. Some of that's just material lead time that we have to get. But Again, we have to kind of start now. Part of that federal payment, and I do want to mention that federal payment is not a deduction, it's not a credit. It's no kidding, the government writes us a check. So part of that requires us to start the project and have materials by a certain deadline. So that's one of the things that's kind of pushing us forward. Again, for that finance portion, we don't even have to start paying it back until the system is up and running. So again, terms we would not generally get from a traditional lender. Next slide.
What slide do you want? Benefits?
That's probably it. Yep, that's it. Sorry, I can't. All I can see is the big logo. All right, so obviously there's a lot of benefits to this. This takes us, makes us a little energy independent. We don't have to be at the whim of the electrical costs every year. We can we have ability to meter our usage with the system as well. That's something we don't really have today. The system will actually tell us if we have something that's kind of wasting electricity, we can kind of use that to kind of narrow down, figure out what's going on. If something, for instance, is, just drawing a lot of power, and we're like, that's kind of weird. We can use the system kind of help narrow that down. So there's some additional benefits in the ability to be better stewards, more I can't say that word, better stewards of our electrical usage. The benefits really kind of come into financial as well, in that the system is gauged to generate 105% of our power. Now, why was it done that? First, to make sure, you always want to be a little bit over 100%, because this is all based on a model of estimates and previous year usage. So the model predicts what the size of the scope of the system needs to be to meet our present needs, and then just a little bit more, partially for growth, partially for if just variations within the year, and also to produce a little bit extra. And that little bit extra is important. That we say 105%, that 5% is very important to us, because that 5% is, first of all, going to also help us pay off this much sooner. And it also gives us credits we become basically an energy producer. The first and foremost is, you produce more energy than you use, we get credits through SMECO. There is, however, a Maryland program that is going on for the next 16 years. And you'll see it, they're called the SRECs. They're the Solar Renewable Energy Credits. This has the ability to pay for almost, $50,000 worth of the system. As it stands, Maryland requires energy producers to have a certain percentage of their energy production come from renewable energy. Now, failing that, what they do is they simply buy it from other people that do. So we essentially become an energy producer, and they would buy it from us. Now, the cool thing about this is, since the system we selected, being a roof-mounted system, they pay us at 150% of kind of the going rate for that electricity. So we get a good bonus. That program runs for the next 16 years. It's designed to, as energy producers slowly absorb green energy into their natural production, this kind of goes away. I don't know if we know if there will be anything after that, but it's a fairly good chunk. The first 6 years will get us about in the range of about $25,000 if the numbers add up, which we can then use to also pay down the system. So the plan for paying the system is this. Every month we write a check to SMECO normally. The goal is, once the system is online, instead of writing that check to SMECO, we write a check to the lender. Now, we have a fixed amount in that lending agreement. It's like I said, the terms are extremely generous, because regardless of how much we actually generate, is independent of our payment. So we will pay $1,200 a month to the lender, and that's like a fixed payment. Actually an annual, but we'll more than likely pay it monthly, just to make sure that we are keeping up with the payments. So we will pay that bill instead of paying SMECO, by and large, we will pay the lender. As we produce more and those SRECs come in, those funds will then also go to pay off the loan and any credits that we have through SMECO and any donations from our wonderful congregation that would like to speed up that payment process. We would be more than grateful. We believe we can pay this off in about between 6 and 7 years. One of the things I do want to stress is the timeline. If we wait, if we say, no, we're not going to do this, we'll wait and see, we lose all of this. Because like I said, that state program expires in 16 years, but it gets, the payback is less every year. So if we wait, we lose more and more of that payback. We also lose the 30%, and we may not have a lender that would give us those kind of terms. So it's kind of like I say, now or never is to do this. But we do believe we can pay this back within 6 to 7 years. And then we've worked in agreement with the leadership board, and the trustees have worked in agreement that the SRECs that we earn after the loan is paid off will go to our capital improvements fund. So that will be an automated amount that will go every year to several $1,000s will go just directly to Mount Zion for our capital improvements. And then the rest is for our congregation, is for our missions. We won't be paying $20,000 a year in electrical costs. Imagine what we can do with that $20,000. So I know I'm being long-winded. I apologize. I'll move on quickly here. Next slide. All right, the layout. As you can see, I should probably stress this first. When folks hear solar, we're not putting anything on the church. The church is off limits. We're not putting any solar panels in the church. I want everyone to understand. As you can see, so we have the north-south facing of the building. The solar panels, for the most part, bulk of them will be on the south-facing side of Tyler Hall and the south-facing side of the Family Life Center. There will be some on the western side that you will be able to see. But I want you, when you walk outside, to look, and if you think, well, solar panels are kind of ugly, walk outside and go, well, one, I can't even see Tyler Hall when I walk up here. It's really hard to see. And then as you walk around the other side, it's kind of the same thing. You will see some panels on that side of the Family Life Center, but a bulk of the panels you won't even be able to see. So we're not talking about building something that looks like an ugly solar farm, and we're not putting anything that I think will be too horrendous. So I want you to just know that those are the locations of the proposed locations of the panels. We will have an engineering assessment to determine the load. They don't really weigh that much, but we will have an engineering assessment to make sure that the roof can handle the load and that we are in compliance with code when those are installed. Next slide. All right, and here is just kind of an example. If you're a numbers guy and you want to see sort of that estimation, you can see the 1 year electric savings just based on what we have at the bottom is just under $17,000, and that was using our past years. Now these are all based on averages, of course. Some months you produce more energy than others, and some months you use more energy than others. The whole model system works on kind of averaging this out over the year to project these savings. I don't think I had anything more on this. Did we? Yeah, but I would just say that 17,000, that's what we would save based on our current electric charges. So think of that in 10 years. What's electricity going to cost in 10 years? That's the savings that we will incur. I think that was it. Oh, you're welcome.
First of all, is there any anyone present who has not gotten a copy of this flyer? Everybody has a copy? Because that which Sean has gone over is contained therein. My part is to explain to you what the leadership board and the trustees have decided. We have decided to accept the lender's proposal to make the loan and proceed with the solar project. Now, there was much evaluation, consideration performed in coming at that conclusion. There was no dissenting voice from any member of the trustees or the leadership board as to the decision I just stated. I have prepared a summary of and I need a couple of volunteers to distribute them. Here's one volunteer, and here's the other volunteer. Please get a copy of this, please. Now, I'm going to take a few minutes and give you an opportunity to read what has just been distributed. So let's do that now, if you would. Thank you. Now, I resent it when someone passes something in writing to me and then after doing so proceeds to read it to me. So I will not be guilty of that. I'm just going to summarize what I consider the pertinent points. As Sean mentioned, we need electricity. We pay approximately $14,000 a year here at Mount Zion. We also pay another $3,000 or so at the parsonage. This solar proposal will not reduce the cost for the parsonage, just this campus here. So unless we're going to reinstall the carbide gas lights in the sanctuary, we're going to continue to need electricity. That's only part of the story. As Sean had mentioned, historically, for the last 25 years, the cost of electricity in Maryland is going up at 3.86% average per year. I don't think there's anyone seated here who would think that trend is going to reverse and that we're going to have falling prices in the cost of electricity. I think it's reasonable to assume there will be increases going forward. And so that $1,200 a month we're paying now, we won't be paying a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now. And there's no way of knowing what that cost will be precisely, but I think it's safe to assume it's going to be higher. So one of the obvious things from this whole proposal is, with the loan payment being $1,200, and we're using money we are currently paying to SMECO, we would be in effect fixing our cost for electricity at $1,200 a month. That is a significant aspect of this whole proposal. And can the church afford it? I think we've already beat that to death. We're not using new money. We're using money we're already spending. Now, there's a caveat in that. A part of the SMECO electric bill is for electricity, but a part of it is also for the infrastructure, to pay for the infrastructure that SMECO has to distribute the electricity. We'll still have that part of the bill. It's a much smaller portion of the bill than the electricity used, but we may very well not have a zero electric bill each month from SMECO. And this whole solar proposal is not replacing SMECO, it's developing a partnership with SMECO. And there's a big difference in that. And we have prepared a loan agreement which is acceptable to the trustees, the leadership board, and the lender. That loan agreement is very specific, detailed, and I assure you, looks after the interests of the church. And it also addresses any contingencies that occur. For example, if we do not get the federal payment, which is 30% of the cost, the lender has agreed to increase the loan amount to cover it. So we would not be faced with coming up with the 30-some thousand or whatever that payment represents. Now, I look upon this whole thing as a financial investment. And every investment has an element of risk. And this solar proposal has an element of risk because it's all based on projections of the amount of electricity the system will produce, the cost of electricity going forward. And so we can't say for certain what will be the case going forward. But everything on balance, I think the investment is worth the risk. And there's an offset to the risk, and that is the projected increases in the cost of electricity going forward. So let's say if the system is going to produce X kilowatt hours of electricity and it doesn't quite do it, and we don't get the payment from SMECO for excess electricity, so that would be a detriment to us. But on the same, offsetting that is that electricity costs are rising also. So that's our presentation. If there are questions that you'd like to ask, we are here to try to answer them. And we have Gage Murdoch from Energy Select who can answer the technical questions we can. Joan? I'm sorry, I don't hear very well. I'm not hearing you.
Whenever we've undertaken a project here at Mount Zion, it didn't matter whether it was the steps or even the contracting out for the fellowship hall, various contractors. The trustees has always required 3 bids unless there is a rationale for not seeking that. Why wasn't that done? And it's not that I'm against the solar, but I'm wondering why the trustees varied from what they require when taking on a project.
Well, I don't know that every project that we've done here has required competitive bids. I can speak of a few that did not. Building the Family Life Center, there were no competitive bids. I served as the general contractor and I picked the subs, and the subs that I picked were the ones I had experience with that I knew we'd get good work from. It's likewise when we replaced the steps in the front of the sanctuary. I had Buddy Tippett make the form because I knew he'd do a good job, and he selected the guy to do the concrete, and he did a good job. We didn't get competitive bids. Quite frankly, as Sean pointed out, Leslie has been involved in the stewardship aspect of this, and it was she who had recommended Energy Select. And would you like to speak to why you did so, Leslie?
Yeah, I'll start by saying I did try to get 2 bids. I volunteered to champion this because I do have solar on my house and I've had such a great experience. My energy bill is actually 0, so we do have a future that might get us there, including that infrastructure, because if you overgenerate, you get other credits from SMECO, but I won't go all into that. What I will say is I did try to get a second bid, and that company just flat out, Shirley knows who I'm talking about. I can't tell you how many hours on the phone with this gentleman. I was so frustrated, I wanted to reach through the phone. And then thankfully he called me back and said, you know what, my company doesn't want to do nonprofit installations anymore. I'm like, thank you, because he was very painful for me. I have had a tremendous experience with Gage personally. He's in my phone. I've had the solar on for a few years, so if I have any questions, I can go right into Leonardtown and walk in that door and get an immediate response. I also checked into their credentials, and they are ginormous. They're certified by like 9 different companies. They've done over 600 solar installations. So just my personal experience with them, the fact that they guarantee their workmanship for 25 years. Got Ken sitting here next to me, and he knows roofing, and that was pretty impressive. So I feel very confident in them. And then I wasn't willing to put myself through the pain of talking to yet a third person who was going to drive me crazy. So there you have it. Thanks, Joan. Yeah. Oh, my. It was tough.
Are there any other questions? Janet?
I'm basically a proponent of solar, but I have underlying fears and concerns about the structure of the roof and what happens to it. And I've heard comments from people saying, oh, you put solar on your roof, it'll void any warranty that you have on your roof. I've heard people who replace roofs say, you know, you have to replace the roof down to the wood very often. And so those are my basic concerns. And what happens when we need to replace the tiles on the roof and we've got these solar panels all over them?
I can answer some of that. As it turns out, the expected life of the shingles on the church roofs exceeds the expected functional life of the panels that are going to be installed. So unless there is hail damage or something catastrophic that happens that the shingles need to be replaced, we would expect would last longer than the panels. But you are correct that if you have to repair the roof for any reason, the panels would have to be removed to do that. And there would be a cost aspect of that. As far as the roofs being structurally capable of supporting the panels, there will be a provision in the contract between Mount Zion and Energy Select that a registered professional structural engineer will certify under seal that the roofs are in fact capable of supporting the panels. So your concern that you expressed is the same concern that I have as well. So there does need to be a determination that the roof structure is such that it can support the panels. Does that answer your question there? All right. Well, if you have another part that isn't answered, let me know. What is it?
And maybe I'm off because I don't have any personal experience with panels, but I know one of my brothers does, and he's had roof damage. Now, it was done, I'm guessing it was done by a different company.
You mean damage by the company installing them?
Yes.
Well, your question is a valid one, and the contract has not yet been signed with the church and Energy Select. It's in the process of being developed. But so maybe we can look at the contract from that aspect to make sure that if the roof is damaged by them, that is their responsibility to fix. And in fact, it may already be in the contract. I just don't have that in front of me.
Yeah, that's part of the 25-year workmanship warranty. Any roof damage that would be caused by us is covered under that.
Okay. All right.
I have a question. What happened to the panels being put out on the ground? Whatever happened with that issue?
From the
Off the roof and out
on the ground.
Yes.
There are two issues with that. It's more costly, but the main cause is we don't have a place to put it because the cleared land behind the Family Life Center, which would seem to be an ideal spot for ground-mounted panels, that's the sewage easement area, and you can't put the panels in the sewage easement area. Now, we do own the land over here, but I don't think we'd want to encumber that land with solar panels, not knowing what future use might be made of it.
Question for,
Yeah.
is there a difference in the credits we get depending on where we put it, roof or ground? Okay.
100% for roof on it, 100% for razors. So you get better SREC deal for the roof mount system. It's 100%, 50% of your credits. So roof mount would cost less, and then we get more on the credits on the backside.
Oh, one more question about the hail damage. Since we, God forbid we have a big hailstorm after we've installed these panels, but what happens when the repair part of that, is that Mount Zion taking care of?
I'm sorry, Stu, I apologize, I just don't hear
Now,
very well.
The hail, just for how we have a hailstorm and it does damage a lot of panels. Mount Zion Church is responsible for repairing those panels, I'm sure. Is that correct? Or-
That would be correct. It would be, it's the church property, and now, I have contacted the insurance company. Their reply was that once the details of the project are known, they will consider it and let us know what their coverage will be and what any increase in the cost of premium might be. And so that's another one of these little pending things as we go through this. But we're pretty much to the point where we could provide to the insurance company the details of the panels installation and get those answers from them. But
So what size hail are these panels typically rated to?
Softball size is what they're rated.
Has anybody experienced softball size hail in St. Mary's in their lifetime? In your lifetime?
not that I recall.
My question is, 25-year warranty. I know I probably won't be around by the end of it, but so then thinking, what is the long range? I mean, the really long range of when this system meets its end, whether it doesn't quite make it to 25 years or, at 30 years and it needs to be replaced.
Well, it would seem to me there'd be two options at that time. You would reinstall new panels, or you would abandon them and go back to SMECO. Now, to be in the position to install new panels, at some time during this 25-year period, the church is going to have to make arrangements and recognize that there's a life to these panels and they're going to have to be replaced. And so funds will need to be accumulated to be able to make that decision or pay for it if you decide to replace the panels.
And also one thing is they're warranted 25 years, but that doesn't mean they stop working for 25 years. It just means that there could be a degradation after 25 years. So we may lose individual panels after 25 years, or there may be a degradation in panels after 25 years. But it doesn't mean the whole system shuts down after 25 years. So yeah, but there is a maintenance requirement. We have to look at long-term maintenance of this on how we're going to replace those. Hopefully in 25 years, there's some cool new technology that's super easy.
Technology will be even better.
Yeah.
I wanted to say, Sean, you said that the ugly of them, and I wanted to point out that some people look and see, oh, they have solar, that's a good thing. So some people might think it's ugly, and some people would be drawn to Mount Zion for that reason. Not that reason, it's not necessarily a negative thing. And then the second thing I wanted to say is, if we are overproducing 5%, but we always turn off the lights when we're not using them, and we save 6% or 7%. Like, I want to just encourage our thinking to be just, the 5% isn't a fixed number. If we save more in our usage, then we get paid for that, right?
And there are also energy, as the trustees are aware, as we go on with the years, there are energy saving options for things. Like right now, we have another aging, I don't know, putting it.
Another agent. Are you making any personal reference?
We have another aging HVAC system. We have some HVACs that's, kind of working extra because of the limitations and so for HVAC. So if we are good stewards of our systems and we replace those systems and we maintain those systems with newer, more efficient systems, we also gain some savings there, as opposed to trying to run multiple systems that are very, very old for a long time. Go ahead, Dan.
Ford, you mentioned that after we pay off the loan, then that money would go into what I thought was sort of like a utilities fund or a capital improvements fund. Do we have anything like any commitment for that? Like, I'm guessing you probably won't be head of the trustees when the loan's paid off. So.
You mean a commitment as to what? Well, it becomes policy decision. Then who makes the policy? It's the leadership board and the board of trustees. In other words, each year you adopt an annual budget, and you do that based on your projected revenue and your projected expenses. If we project that we're not going to have an electric bill, then theoretically those funds become available for some other allocation.
I guess what I'm asking is maybe, is there a long-term plan for a utilities capital improvements that would also kind of be like, oh yeah, this is what we've been doing for the last 15 years. Of course, this is the way to replace the panels or the roof and all that stuff.
Not just on the solar, basically on everything.
Yes.
I admit, we do need a more comprehensive capital improvements plan.
Long-range plan, perhaps.
We kind of talked about that before.
And there has been discussion that when we prepare the 2027 operating budget, we will also look at a long-range capital improvement budget. Shirley?
With the solar, was there any consideration of installing batteries as backups or continued?
There are no proposed batteries for this particular system. Like I said, it's a partnership with SMECO. When our solar panels are not producing electricity, we're getting electricity from SMECO. And there are no batteries in this system. Some systems do have them, but we will not.
We just didn't feel the need to, like it's kind of along the line of like emergency generators. We just didn't feel the need that there's any pressure need for the church to have kind of like an emergency backup system. Because nothing really runs that's so important that we need to have power for an extended period. And that would be for like an extended period of time.
Kevin?
A comment to back up. Ford took the electric from June to June. That was his $14,000. From June to July, the bill for this church and preschool doubled from SMECO. So that's what we're looking at. Preschool hasn't even started yet to start using that building. So we're looking at now going into the fall with even more electricity than we've paid in the past year because of the increases in our state. So just a little background. The $1,200 is probably going to be a lot less than we're going to be paying in electricity.
What was the bill last month? It was something like
It was like $1,700 for this in a preschool. It was $900 a month before that.
And was that because the rates went up?
Yes, I think, yes, because the usage is summertime. It wasn't a whole lot of usage.
Well, just the preschool did have a summer session.
Yes, but they weren't every day, every week like they are once they start in September. Yes.
Since the budget has been mentioned, and I'm looking at this, and I understand the savings on the electricity. And again, as Ford has said, these are all projections. My concern is at the last board meeting, leadership board meeting, it was projected, and this is just 7 months into our budget cycle for this year, that, and Bill Geyer is very good about projecting these kinds of figures, that the church is going to have a $37,000 plus deficit this year. So I guess what I'm saying is it's paramount that the loan payment come off the top each month with the savings. And if we don't meet those savings, then they are going to impact the budget at some point. I'm concerned about our deficit in the budget. It gets greater every year. And we're not cutting costs anywhere, mainly because we can't, and a lot of that's energy. And I understand that. But is there any way, I guess the overages on the savings for the solar will go back toward the loan payment or a greater loan payment? Okay. So none of it would be fed back into our budget?
Not until the loan is paid off.
Not until the loan is paid
Loan
off.
is paid off, then we can start.
And that projection is 9.5 years if we stay on schedule?
9.3.
9.3?
That's worst case.
Yeah, that's the worst case. We're actually shooting between 6 and 7 is what our plan is.
How do you do that? With fundraising or?
No, if we get as we apply the SRECs and the credits, we will, that's again, based off the model, that's where we're going. What Ford is saying is if we don't necessarily either produce what we're anticipating to produce, or if our usage increases because of some other reason, then yeah, that would affect that payoff amount. So yeah, we can't get an exact date because some of these things are very, very variable depending on our usage and the amount that's produced. So those are projections, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And Jen, did you want to?
I just wanted to verify, Bill had taken an amount from accounts payable that included $24,000 from 2 years ago's mission statements. Priscilla and I have removed that. So we are not looking at a $37,000 deficit. We're looking at closer to a normal one that goes through each month. So that $24,000 came away from that $37,000. It was an old bill that the building bookkeeping from Blanche had put on there. So we had to remove it so that it didn't keep running along and looking like it needed to be paid. It was passed.
Yeah, I know Bill said that he thought that was, there was something wonky with that, because that kind of shocked us all. We were like, what do you mean we're like, we haven't been tracking that. So, okay, thank you.
One of the things that we also need to look at is we've only paid our mission shares, thanks to Ben Mendoza, the Susie Mendoza Foundation, for 6 months, I believe.
Yes.
We still have 6 months to go. And you warned us at the leadership board that we need to make those payments on time, or at least reconcile them by the end of the year, because the last thing we want is the conference coming in and taking over management of Mount Zion. So that looms large.
Oh, yeah, yep. And I think now, we won't hit that this year with this, because we're not going to have the system up and running before the end, likely before the end of the year. But that payment to the lender next year does help stabilize that aspect of our budget for next year. So it's a little more, it allows us to have a little more predictability going forward, which is nice.
Let me state the obvious, I think. As I mentioned, there is an element of risk, as there is with any investment. But the real risk is borne by the lender of the money to the church, because the lender will, we project, not get the money back in total for 9.3 years. Therefore, no opportunity to earn any interest or dividends on that money with another alternate investment. And while in the meantime, the lender is carrying that risk, Mount Zion has fixed its cost for electricity for that period. That's a pretty good deal for the church, I think. And so that's why we came to the decision we did, full speed ahead, but make sure the language in the loan agreement and the language in the contract does what we think it does. And the loan agreement is pretty much settled. Anyone who wants to see a copy of it, you're willing, you can get one. You can get one today, because I have a few unassigned copies that you'd be more than happy to look at. The contract is pending agreement. Deb, you wanted to make a comment? You were standing up there with the microphone, so I assume you were just passing out the microphone. Okay. Are there other questions? Well, some of you might have to get home to fried chicken for Sunday dinner, so I'll let you all go. Thank you, Sean.